You know, it's a really tough truth to swallow, but not everyone who smiles at you actually likes you. Psychology tells us that people often reveal their true, underlying feelings through highly subtle behaviors. And honestly, they usually don't even realize they're doing it. Today, we're unpacking the fascinating and, yeah, sometimes a little uncomfortable psychology of hidden resentment. So let's just dive right into this explainer. We're going to look at the subtle cues that reveal how someone truly feels about you. And I promise you, once you start noticing these signs, you are literally never going to be able to unsee them.
I want you to think about that for a second. Have you ever had that lingering, unshakable feeling that someone secretly disliked you, even if they were being perfectly polite to your face? It's such a common experience, but man, it really leaves us questioning our own sanity, right? We ask ourselves, am I just imagining things? Am I being paranoid? Well, as we'll see today, you're not crazy. Your intuition is actually picking up on very real psychological signals. By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a super clear framework to understand exactly what your brain has been noticing all along.
See, most of us expect dislike to look incredibly obvious, like a scene from a movie, right? We look for cold behavior, raised voices, arguments, or direct insults. But real, deep-seated dislike, it's usually so much quieter. Because of social norms, workplace etiquette, and just our deeply human desire to avoid conflict, resentment often masks itself. It hides behind fake smiles, polite but brief conversations, and forced kindness. And honestly, the scary part, the part that requires a whole lot of emotional maturity to handle, is that the people who secretly dislike you are often the ones closest to you. They're in your social circle, your family, or right there in your daily work environment.
Okay, let's move to our first sign, the forced smile. Psychologists point out that genuine smiles involve the eyes, specifically the muscles around them crinkling up. It's not just a mouth movement. But when someone is wrestling with secret dislike, their smile often feels, well, incredibly incomplete. It flashes on their face and then disappears just a bit too quickly. Their eyes remain totally cold and completely disengaged, and the overall energy of that interaction just feels undeniably unnatural.
You've probably experienced this exact scenario before. Picture a coworker or an acquaintance holding court in the break room, smiling at everyone warmly, laughing, just having a great time. But the very moment they turn and smile at you, something shifts. It's like the temperature of the room drops just a fraction of a degree. You can't quite put it into words, but your instincts notice it immediately. The human brain is hardwired to detect threats, and a fake smile from someone in your social group registers as a major inconsistency. It's your primal instincts firing off a tiny warning signal.
So the second sign is subtle dismissal. People who secretly dislike you often struggle profoundly to celebrate your success. When something genuinely good happens to you, say a promotion, a new relationship, a big personal milestone, they respond with minimizing phrases. Things like, "Oh, lucky you," or "Well, it's not that serious," or my personal favorite, "Anyone could do that if they had the time," as if we all just have the free time to master quantum physics on a Tuesday. Psychology calls this ego protection. And look, this isn't really about you at all. It is an unconscious defense mechanism. Your success unconsciously threatens their own fragile self-image, so they literally have to shrink your achievements to make themselves feel taller.
Moving on to the third sign, selective absence. These are the individuals who are always vividly present when life is easy, fun, and entertaining. They are front and center for the parties and the celebrations, but they magically disappear the moment your life becomes difficult. There's a deeply emotional story from psychology case studies about a man who seemingly had dozens of friends around him. Every single weekend, his phone never stops ringing. But the moment he lost his job and really began to struggle emotionally, those exact same people slowly vanished. It highlights a painful truth. Some people love the energy and the benefits you provide, but they lack the emotional capacity to actually care for you when things get heavy. Which brings us to the fourth sign, disguised criticism. You probably know this better as the classic backhanded compliment. You might hear something like, "Wow, you're smarter than I thought," or perhaps, "You actually look good today," or even, "You're quite successful for someone with your background." These statements are cleverly designed to sound positive on the very surface, which gives the person an easy out if you get upset. But psychologically, it reveals a hidden, insecure desire to knock you down a peg, all while maintaining perfect, plausible deniability. Now, this fifth sign actually surprises a lot of people. Sometimes people secretly dislike you because they secretly envy you. And envy, paradoxically enough, often creates imitation. You might notice this person copying your personal style, using your specific catchphrases, or even adopting your ideas and pitching them as their own.
It feels confusing, right? Because we're always taught that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. But in this specific context, it is not born from admiration, it's born from silent, insecure competition. They want what you have, and they're really struggling with the fact that you had it first.
Let's look at the sixth sign, which involves a totally fascinating piece of psychological vocabulary: Schadenfreude. It's a German term psychologists use to describe the strange, undeniable emotional pleasure some people feel when they witness others fail or suffer. When someone secretly dislikes you, they will show subtle, micro-expressions of satisfaction during your bad moments. It could be a tiny smirk they try to hide, a weird glint in their eye when you share bad news, or even a sudden sense of relaxation in their posture when you admit you made a mistake.
And notice how this plays out in real time. Have you ever had someone who usually ignores you suddenly become highly active and present around you when your life gets messy? They're suddenly texting you, asking all these probing questions, becoming highly curious, interested, and engaged in the drama of your hardship. We often mistake this for empathy, but if they only show up for the train wrecks and never for the triumphs, that engagement is coming from a place of comparison. Seeing your hardship temporarily soothes their own internal struggles.
This brings us to the final and perhaps the most reliable sign of all: your own intuition. The human brain is basically an incredibly powerful supercomputer when it comes to detecting emotional inconsistency. Even when someone pretends incredibly well and says all the right words, your subconscious is quietly logging the data. It picks up on the slight tone changes, the subtle facial tension around the jaw, the sudden energy shifts when you enter a room, and the rigid forced behavior. Sometimes, your intuition figures out the absolute truth long before your conscious mind is ready to accept it. Trust your gut.
Okay, I want us to take a collective deep breath here, because I know uncovering all these signs can feel a bit cynical, maybe even overwhelming. So let's pivot to a really deep psychological truth. Human emotions are messy, layered, and just incredibly complicated. When we realize someone dislikes us, our first instinct is usually to label them as toxic or just a bad person. But taking a compassionate lens helps us understand the psychology at play without internalizing all that hurt. We really need to look beyond the surface behavior to understand the why.
We absolutely have to remember this. Not everyone who dislikes you is evil. This is a profoundly important distinction to make in life. Often, a person's dislike for you has absolutely nothing to do with your character. Sometimes people dislike you simply because your presence reminds them of their own unresolved insecurities. Your natural confidence might inadvertently intimidate them. Your success and forward momentum might expose their own feelings of stagnation or frustration. Their hidden resentment is really just a mirror reflecting their own internal battles. It is not a judgment of your worth.
So what do we actually do with all this information? Well, our goal in this explainer today is definitely not to make you paranoid or to make you fear people. The true goal is gentle, powerful awareness, because once you can recognize this hidden negativity for exactly what it is, a projection of their own inner state, you can finally protect your peace. You can immediately stop wasting your precious emotional energy trying to prove yourself. You can stop trying to win approval from people who have already decided how they feel about you and just step right off that exhausting hamster wheel of people-pleasing.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly memorable life lesson to take away today. Not everyone who smiles with you smiles for you. Learning to navigate your relationships with this compassionate but highly realistic boundary is honestly one of the most liberating things you can do for your mental health. It frees you up to invest your time, your love, and your genuine smiles into the people who are actually cheering for you to win.
I'd love to turn this over to you now for a quick moment of self-reflection. Have you ever suddenly realized that someone secretly disliked you? Looking back on it, what was the specific sign or subtle behavior that finally exposed them? I would absolutely love to hear your stories and how you handled the situation, so please drop a comment below. And if you found this explainer helpful for understanding the hidden layers of human behavior, make sure to subscribe. Keep learning, keep observing, and I'll see you next time.